So it's 5:30, so we're going to start. My name is Paul Hench. I'm the city administrator here at the city of Milton. Want to thank you all for coming. Appreciate a good turnout here. Real happy to see that. What we're going to talk about tonight is ATVs and the possibility of the city of Milton and having ATV routes in town. The city council members have not just really discussed ATV routes at all, so no decisions have been made. What we're going to do is I'm going to give a brief presentation, pretty much what ATV routes are, what the state laws are, what Milton can control, and then open it up for questions. We've got a great panel here tonight. Nick Elmer, he's the Assistant Director of Rock County Public Works down on the end there. Trevor Lund, he's a Recreation Safety Deputy with Rock County Sheriff's Department. Chief Rickner here, he's from the city of Jefferson. City of Jefferson has had ATV routes in the city for about 2 years now. And then from the city of Milton here, Brandon Saxey, our police chief, our public works director, Mark Langer, and myself, like I said, Paul Hench, city administrator. So we're going to start there. If you saw on your seat questions or comments, if you want to write those down, turn those in back, and then we'll address those after the presentation. So with the ATV workshop here today, what the Wisconsin State Statute 2333-8 sub B authorized municipalities to designate all streets within its jurisdiction an ATV or UTV route, other than state trunk highways. Several communities in Wisconsin have used this statute to allow ATVs on municipal streets, and like I said, currently City of Milton is exploring that option. One thing I want to note before I get too far into this presentation, for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to be using the word ATV and UTV interchangeably. I know they're different things. We know they're different things, but they'd be regulated the same. So I'm going to use that. Also, there are several agriculture exemptions that state law requires municipalities and counties to have to allow ATVs. We're not really going to discuss those exemptions here. These are more for a recreational time. So what's the goal for this evening? We're going to talk about what an ATV route is. We're going to talk about the state laws regarding ATV, UTV usage. We're going to talk about a couple of concerns that community members may have. Safety concerns being number one, and then noise concerns. We're going to talk about the required ATV, UTV signage, and like I said, what ATV, UTV use could look like in the city of Milton. And like I said, we are going to follow up with a question and answer session. So what are ATV routes? ATV routes are not ATV trails. When you think of a trail, that's most off in the woods, off in national forest, off in a recreational area. An ATV route by statute is the roadway portion of a highway, not the shoulder, other parts of the right of way. And the roadway is the area between the two white lines on the road in a rural area and from curb to curb in a more urban situation. If you look, there's got two pictures up there. The left is this one. The left one is the rural and the right is the urban. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind there. Appreciate it, Mark. So let's talk about some state laws for UTVs and ATVs. All-terrain vehicle routes. Okay. All-terrain vehicle routes mean a highway or sidewalk designated for use by all-terrain vehicle operators by the government agency having jurisdiction. State law requires helmets for those under the age of 18. All ATVs and UTVs must be registered with the DNR. In addition, all ATVs and UTVs registered as public use will be required to furnish a rear plate that displays the registration number, and plates can either be created by the owner of the ATV or UTV or purchased themselves. No person under the age of 12 may operate an ATV in the state of Wisconsin on routes. All ATV operators at least 12 and born after January 1st of 1988 must possess a valid ATV safety certificate issued by this state or any other state or province. And then all ATV safety certified operators aged 12 to 15 must also be accompanied by an adult when operated on a designated ATV route. Continuing with state laws, when operating legally on a roadway, You cannot pass other motor vehicles or ATVs or UTVs unless stationary or parked. No person may ride in or on any part of the ATV or UTV that is not designated or intended to be used by passengers. You must use hand signals to indicate your turning and stopping intentions. If your ATV or UTV is not equipped with turn signals, left turns can be made from any part of the roadway surface as long as it's safe and legal to do so. And continuing on roadways here, you must operate in single file. You must have your headlamp and tail lamps turned on. And again, all children ages 12 to 15 must be accompanied by an adult while operating on a designated ATV route, regardless if they possess that ATV safety certification. So if you're under 16 and you're on a route, you need to be with an adult. And then all ATVs got to operate on the extreme right side of the roadway surface. Top 10 violations that are seen throughout the state, and these are not in order. First, operating without a valid registration. Like I said, all ATVs need to be registered. Second is operating in a careless manner. Operating while intoxicated. We know that's always an issue that we hope people do better on and really work to not operate vehicles or ATVs while intoxicated. Operating on private or public properties without permission. It's also trespassing. Illegal operations on or near highways. ATV equipment violations. Owners permitting operations by unauthorized persons. And operate or ride an ATV without a headgear, a helmet in this case. And operating without a safety or a valid safety certificate or failure to carry that safety certificate. So speaking of safety, all travel involves risk. We all know that, whether you get on a plane or you get on a car every day, we're taking a chance. For the 472,000 registered ATVs in Wisconsin, last year in 2023, there were 32 deaths. Of those 32, 12 of them occurred on ATV routes. So only 20% of the deaths did occur on ATV routes. However, of those 12, 7 or 58% involved alcohol with the operator over the legal limit to drive of the 0.08 blood alcohol content. It's just a reminder for people that use their ATVs or are going to use their ATVs, please don't drink and operate your ATV. Obviously here we're looking at this, it's pretty easy to see and inference that most of these deaths, were caused because of someone who's been drinking and again, over the limit. And also talking about safety, of those 12 deaths that occurred on ATV routes in 2023, only 2 of those folks were wearing their seatbelt. Wear your seatbelts if they're operated. I know ATVs don't have them, but UTVs certainly do. Wear that safety belt. And then 0 were wearing helmets. So, again, try and take safe measures, even though it's not required. If you're over 18, wearing that helmet is certainly important. Now we're not very good with this button, I apologize. For noise, Wisconsin law limits ATV sound emissions to 96 decibels. And I believe, and officers, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe that is for cars or motorcycles as well as that 96 decibel limit. Modification to the exhaust system resulting in louder sound emissions is prohibited by law, and citations can be issued. Unlike many on-highway motorcycles, occasionally you'll see those Harley Davidsons going down and they've got modified mufflers, and we don't see those cited too often. I know there's a really strong use of citations when it comes to modifying those mufflers, when it comes to ATVs in Wisconsin, especially in more urban areas, and I believe that would be the case here in the city of Milton, and correct me if I'm wrong there, Chief, on that one. DNR wardens are available with decibel meters to assist local police officers, and anytime there's a large group of traffic, cars going down the road, motorcycles, there is typically going to be a significant amount of sound. However, since there are no ATV trails in our area, it's unlikely that we're going to have a large group of ATVs traveling through the city. And speaking of sound here, I've got a little chart there just to explain some noise levels of what the ATV is. You know, breathing, I mean, you're hearing your partner breathe at night, you know, that's about 10 decibels. Sometimes in my case, it's a little bit more than 10 decibels, but, you know, leaves rustlings, 20 decibels, whispers, 30 decibels, light rains, 40. You know, you move up to city traffic, now we're starting to talk about 80 decibels. Listen to the highway traffic on 26 or 59. Lawnmower, people, you know, running their lawnmower on Saturday mornings, it's about 90 decibels. And then subway trains up to 100 decibels. Then we get chainsaws at 110, you know, rock concerts 120, all the way up to fireworks, which are 140 decibels. ATV, UTV typically run at that 80 to 96 decibel range. For signage, all routes within the city will need to be signed properly using the MUTCD standards. That's the manual on uniform traffic control devices. It's set by the feds and adopted by the state. If implemented, the Rock County Crawler ATV Club has generously offered to pay for the signs needed as well as for that installation. And again, the city has made no decisions on this at all and really hasn't discussed it. But if the city were to implement it, we would not see a cost from implementing those signs. So what can the city do? Well, we may specifically specify effective periods for the use of all-terrain vehicle routes, may restrict or prohibit the operation of all-terrain vehicles during certain periods of the year. For instance, if we didn't want someone, we don't want them operated on our roads in winter. You know, we could say winter's off limits. We can restrict the time of day of operations. Several municipalities do this. Lake Mills, for instance, they go from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., until 10 p.m., excuse me. I believe Whitewater does as well. We can require liability insurance. Rock County does require all operators to have liability insurance. We can allow or prohibit minors. A lot of communities do not allow the riders between 12 and 15 years old, safety certificate or not. Some require driver's license, but for most it seems that they want to have them 16 years or older. We can require brake lights and headlights on all ATVs and UTVs. We can regulate the speeds of the ATV. On the road, the speed limit might be 35, but we could regulate those folks to 15, 20 miles an hour. We can control what roads the ATV operates on. For instance, if we just want to designate a few roads within the community, that's one thing. But then again, we could open up all our roads to ATV. That's another possible discussion that obviously the city council would have to have. Finally, we can regulate cruising. So you don't have the same folks going back and forth and just joyriding on their ATVs. You know, we can require those ATVs to take a direct route from where they're starting to where they're ending. So that's what the city can do. Like I said, we haven't made any decisions and really haven't had any discussions. We wanted to start these discussions here today. So we're going to open it up to questions now. I think no one's turned in their questions yet. So we're going to try and since there's so many people here, we're going to try and have them written down so we can just make the process as quick as possible. Has anyone taken the time to write their questions down? Okay. Well, then we might start just having questions from the group then. And sir, if you want to go ahead, if you want to step up to the podium and use the microphone there.
I don't need it.
We would like you to do that. So we are recording right now, so we can present this to our community.
I belong to the Cold Spring Riders from Cold Springs in Jefferson County. That's what I was going to ask you. Have you had a lot of complaints in Jefferson? Because I know the city's opened up there.
Well, first of all, good evening. Thank you for welcoming me into your meeting. My name is Alan Richter, the Chief of Police in the City of Jefferson. So I can speak to my experience in Jefferson. going back to 2022, when these conversations like you're having tonight began. That's a great question, and that's the number one question that leaders here in Milton are going to get is, well, how many problems have you had so far?
Right.
So, two things we did in Jefferson to kind of roll our plan in was our council enacted what's called a sunset clause. We gave it a 6-month probationary period to allow the community and the police department to evaluate that very question. Is there a lot of problems? So, in matters like this, I found that, feelings, both sides or the other, do get involved, but I'm going to speak to fact. Okay, then maybe answer your question in a little more context.
Okay.
So, in 2023, just looking at that year in Jefferson, we treat ATV, UTVs just like motor vehicles, any other car on the road. So, during that time, we tracked 2,331 calls for service, which are traffic stops alone. ATV, UTV, and cars. Out of those 2,331 contacts my officers had, 4 total involved UTV, ATVs.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
That just answered my question, yes. Thank you.
If anyone else has questions, please step up to the podium.
Hello, I'm Brian Meyer from the town of Milton. I'm the chair there, and I know there's representatives from Fulton here in that town as well. First of all, I want to appreciate a very distinct definition of what we're talking about. A lot of people don't understand in totality all of the regulations involved, much less the statutory minimum requirements and the ability to be more restrictive than the statutes as well. I brought this discussion to my town board 3 times last year. Once to discuss the ongoing interest, once to discuss the fact that the county had created an ordinance for county highways that any municipality could petition to implement within their district. The county did a very good job in that. They spent a lot of time drafting that ordinance as well. I hope that there's not any confusion in the public about the county's ordinance. Some people might assume that the county adopted an ordinance and all county highways can be used. That's not how that was drafted, of course, and we understand that each municipality can petition to implement the use of those county highways is how it's really intended to be used. And a third time, a neighboring municipality that we share a road with down the middle of it asked our town to consider adopting an ordinance for at least that road, that shared road. In each case, I felt that I was justified in putting it on the agenda for discussion. It warranted a discussion. In each case, my town board said, don't bring it back again. I think that was for the time being. I asked if they had a time restraint on when they wanted to discuss it again. I think that we will be discussing it at some point, but there certainly was no appetite for any discussion recently, even though we attempted to form some discussion around it. But again, I want to show you my appreciation for this presentation and this opportunity for the public. As a town chair, I recognize that this is a lot of citizens do want to be able to use this. The one thing that I've consistently brought up, and we are still working on an ordinance for an isolated subdivision in our community. My concern is that these type of vehicles are manufactured with recreation and intent. They're not designed and manufactured solely for mass transportation. And that's been a recurring theme in the discussions I've been involved in. Other than that, I do believe that the public wants this type of use. Accepting that concern that we have, and there'll always be concerns, whether it's automobiles, four-wheel automobiles, or motorcycles, or whatever it is, there'll always be discussion about safety. But I just want to thank you.
Evening. My name is Evan Sayre. I'm the chair of the town of Fulton. And with modern communications, everybody can just put anything they want out there. And as a kind of a matter of fact, it's been brought to the town of Fulton and it's been indefinitely tabled. So all of the other stuff about you see on the media that people make up, it's been indefinitely tabled in the town of Fulton. Any questions?
Any other comments or questions from anyone?
Hi, I'm Ray Lunder. I live in the town of Fulton. And well, thanks. First of all, thank you for holding the workshop for tonight. I know that the UTV, ATV thing is very popular across a lot of counties. And it's spreading down to the southern counties and townships all over southern Wisconsin, which I'm sure you're all aware of. I've been trying to lobby to the town of Fulton, as Evan just mentioned, just to get on the agenda to having a discussion just like this to determine. And my question is for you and anyone else here is, what are the main concerns that you see with this type of thing taking place? Following or creating an ordinance to allow ATVs, UTVs on the roads as routes, as you mentioned. Motorcycles, of course, are on the road right now and have been. There's the Polaris, I think they call them sidekicks or switchbacks. Switchbacks, those are brand new. There's a three-wheeled vehicle. It's like a motorcycle, but you sit side by side. But they're the same size as a UTV. And then you get the Can-Am Spiders. That's another three-wheeled vehicle, more newly on the roads and things, and again, the same size as a UTV. My understanding is the only reason that UTVs or ATVs aren't legal right off the bat from the manufacturer is because they don't have the DOT safety regulations like a vehicle, like an auto vehicle does, a four-wheeled vehicle, and more. And really, to be specific, it's because it doesn't have airbags. And that's really the only reason why they wouldn't be legal on the road right away, because they have 4 tires instead of 3, like these three-wheel vehicles. But as far as performance and everything else, you're talking about 30 miles an hour areas, usually, or less. People traveling from A to B, like you say, they're not cruising up and down the roads and things. So I'd just be curious, with all the other smaller vehicles on the road and legal, what anyone on the board up here, what their major concerns are, so those could be addressed at future meetings, to see if we couldn't get more of this mainstream. And I'd welcome anyone from the audience as well about what those concerns are. That'd be my question.
With that being said, we've been doing it in Milton.
Again, if you could go and speak to the microphone.
Dustin Schrader. With that being said, we've been riding snowmobiles on the Milton roads for 40 years, as long as I've been around. How many accidents have been on the road with snowmobiles? Any?
Thank you. So with snowmobiles, you are traveling on a roadway to get to a trail.
Correct.
So have the clubs thought about putting in ATV trails?
It's kind of hard to do that with farmland, but on a snowmobile, now you're running on, your skis, metal skis. How much traction do you got on a road with metal skis compared to rubber tires?
But
How many
to get to
snowmobilers
point
do I got in
A,
here that will,
to go from
say
point
so?
A to point B, the purpose is to get to another trail, right? I mean, you need a little bit of roadway to get to a trail.
Correct, and that's what I think they're going with that, road routes to get to the trails. to
But there
get out
aren't
of
any
town.
trails.
That's what we're trying to do, is
You're
get
trying to get trails,
road routes to other towns,
But
because you
not
can
to
travel from
trails.
here, right.
okay?
Just
I was
like,
just trying to
have you
clarify.
been to the Wisconsin Dells? That's busy up there, and that's no problem up there either.
I don't live up there, but that clarifies. Point A to point B in a snowmobile is different because that is to get to another trail. I'm just wanting
Right,
clarified
okay,
in
and
my
then in
mind.
Newville, if you cross the Rock River Bridge, it's kind of dangerous running on skis going across that bridge compared to rubber.
I'm not
You
sure
know,
that
we
Newville
gotta,
would
we
be an
gotta kind of
area
think
that would
about
be
metal
conducive
skis
for
and
it at
rubber,
all.
The
Yeah.
safety issue is way better on an ATV, UTV.
But kind of missing the point. In a snowmobile, recreational vehicle, out having fun, but you're using the roadways only to get to another trail. And so I guess I would ask, why wouldn't you look at maybe getting some trails? So then you're going from point A to point B and traveling. I mean, you worked it out with, or the snowmobiles worked it out with the farmers that way. It's a question.
You can go across the fields in the winter time, of course. And there wouldn't be snowmobile trails, quite frankly, if the fields were closed, open in the winter time.
So help me to understand. What are you wanting to do? Like, where are you wanting to go that you wouldn't be able to go in your vehicle?
No, there isn't anywhere that you wouldn't be able to go with your vehicle, and certainly that's an option. Anybody can go in a vehicle anywhere they can today. It's just the option of taking a UTV, where sometimes you're going over to friends' places, or maybe you'll go across a friend's field and you're going down the road to get to the field to cut in, or you'll be
But
going
I thought that field had crops.
or down like a maintenance road or something, because you know the owners and things like that, and they'll know each other. But we're just trying to say, we're talking routes, and I was glad someone had that clarification, because it's not a trail, it's a route, and we just want to be able to go, to your neighbor's house, down the road to a gas station, a friend's house, whatever, and just another form of vehicle to do it. And as I said before, between motorcycles and spiders and switchbacks, I really feel a UTV is no different than that, except for that DOT designation.
Have you talked to the DOT about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're the ones that came up with the regulations for it. And that's the only reason, when they're manufactured, they're not licensed to be on the road.
But a motorcycle is.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, as well as
Thank you
the
for
spider.
clarifying that.
Yeah. Mhm. So again, if anyone else has any concerns, I'd be curious to hear them, to see why you have, or if anyone does, why there's a little apprehension to allow this or not allow it. I've heard a lot about safety, but safety is no different than those other small vehicles where you're exposed on the road. And I'd just like to hear what other people have to say.
In my, I'm fortunate to having gone through this process already at a different municipality. I worked as the village administrator of the village dispenser up in Marathon County. And we did implement ATV routes on all cities within the village dispenser. One of the main concerns was sound. Going through the residential neighborhoods. Obviously it's a little different out in Fulton, but not really in Newville. Nowadays it's, and I will say this quite frankly, as a resident of Spencer at the time, I was against it. I did not voice my opinion or anything, but because I was concerned about the sound of ATVs running down my streets. And it turned out to be a non-issue. I will say that. I was surprised and I was wrong. But that was, sound was a big concern up there.
And as you mentioned, that's one of the regulations. And, you know, if you are, you have to modify it, so.
If I could add
Yes.
one more
Brian
thought.
Meyer again, Town of Milton. I want to clarify two things as well. I didn't notice in the presentation, but statute doesn't allow ATV routes to be approved by ordinance where state highways are posted more than 35 miles per hour. And the ATV, UTV traffic will not be allowed to exceed 35 miles an hour on any road. And for the town of Milton, it wraps literally completely around the city of Milton. One of the concerns that was discussed with destinations, and we saw taverns and one of the highest density of recreational vehicle resorts, campgrounds in the state. The ability to travel between some of these taverns and campgrounds. In the town of Milton, we found that you can certainly cross a state highway, but you can't use any length of the highway that's posted over 35 miles an hour, regardless of what appetite there is for it. So we struggled to find the value in an ordinance when you couldn't use the length of Highway 59 to go between these particular destinations. And the other thing that was discussed at length was not only trying to use the length of Highway 59 at any point in a destination, but also getting through the city of Milton, quite frankly. So we saw both of those as challenges for any consideration of an ordinance in the town of Milton that wraps around the city of Milton. Thank you.
One thing, Brian, is that on 59 in the city, it is regulated at 30 miles an hour, so we would be able to use that.
Inside the city limits,
Inside
yes.
the city, yes.
And I've talked to
If the board chooses to designate that. As
yes, for the city of Milton. I'm just saying for the town of Milton as a municipal neighbor, and trying to get these people to places they want to go to. You know, where's their destination? Outside of the city of Milton, it is above 35 miles an hour posting. And I did talk at length with the DOT a number of times about the future total reconstruction of 59 between Newville and County N. They are not considering lowering it to 35 miles an hour in the length of that at this time. So we've explored that and trying to answer the ability to make a destination, you know, some route that could satisfy somebody's needs or desires.
Chief Rickner, I think you had something to say?
I was just listening to some of the discussion, and I thought I'd just, now that I'm here, give you a little more insight on what Jefferson had gone through, not unlike these discussions we're having tonight. So what we ended up doing, instead of bombarding our city council with the details of how the ordinance was going to be wrote, the mayor appointed an ad hoc committee consisting of basically myself, street department personnel for the city, the city engineer, and then the member of our local Jefferson Half Mile ATV Club. And that's a great thing that I had learned here tonight is the Rock County Crawlers is the ATV club that appears to be coming forth to help the city of Milton, and I would urge to bring that stakeholder in to kind of work out some of these details. But once Once our ad hoc committee met, we kind of narrowed all these choices down for our city council. Basically said, okay, here's, at the committee of the whole meeting, here's the proposed ordinance. Now this is your choice. Choice one, are you going to have a sunset clause for 6 months? Choice two, we're going to restrict ATV traffic on business 26 by Maple Grove Trailer Court because that's 45-mile-an-hour zone. Option three, whatever that was. So, and then you can get into some of the details about how restrictive you want to get with your ordinance. Our ordinance in Jefferson is you have to be 16 years of age and older, hold a valid driver's license. If you're between the ages of 16 and 18, you have to be wearing a helmet on the machine, and all the safety measures with the DNR code apply. Signaling your turns, brake lights, headlights and taillights on at all times. What this is really about is exactly like this gentleman said. You want to be able to go to the gas station. You want to be able to go to the, in our town, you wanted to go to Walmart, and those things happen. The safety argument, you answer by saying, that's on you guys, the operators. You're going into this fully well and fully aware that the National Highway Transportation Safety Board has not certified these machines for on-road use. So as being responsible machine owners, that's where you put the responsibility.
In the county of Jefferson, on the county highways, the speed limit is above 35 miles an hour for ATVs. Am I not correct?
You're correct, yeah.
Okay, so that is well, maybe not for Highway 59, but for the roads in between. And have not, in your area, the places where they're not able to access establishments, have they not made arrangements for little trails? They have trails that go around buildings to get back to where they need to go.
Right. Most county trunk highways you can operate on, and they're posted 55, but those are county trunk highways. They're talking state trunk highways that 35 mile an hour, like state trunk highway business 26, it would not be a viable route, and that's why we restricted it there because it's over 35.
I just want to point out again the distinction for Jefferson County and for Rock County. In Rock County, very few, I think only two highways have been permitted at this point.
Yeah, Trevor Lund with the Rock County Sheriff's Office Recreational Safety Bureau. The one County Highway D in Rock Township was opened because of the speed restrictions going through Afton are below that 35 mile an hour threshold, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And is there any other? That's the only one I'm aware of that I've seen posted. So again, county highways, U.S. highways, state highways are off limits unless you get the exception because it's under the 35 miles an hour.
My point being is different counties have different rules.
I'm James Brick. I'm the president of the Rock County Crawlers ATV Club. Again, I want to thank you guys for putting this presentation together. I think it was very well planned out. Along the lines we were talking about safety and liability and stuff, I also wanted to add that the municipalities, a lot of their worry about, are they going to get sued? The state statute states that the liability cannot be placed upon, in case there was an accident, upon the township or municipality, if I'm correct. That's how that states. And also we, as for the details, all the routes, yes, if City of Milton does determine that they do want to proceed with this, we're more than glad to help plan out the routes and all the available things that need to be ironed out before that happens. And thank you again.
So Brian Meyer with the Town of Milton again. So a quick FYI, some of you I know are aware, so the state statute for state highways, there can be no, I don't want to say no exception, because there is an exception, that's the point. At 35 miles an hour, anything posted over 35 miles an hour on a state highway does not allow for a local ordinance unless the state will provide an exception. So there is a statute allowing that. I brought that up with 12 DOT project managers and engineers in the same room and discussed any consideration of an exemption for Highway 59. And they said it will absolutely not be considered for Highway 59. They have made a small number of exceptions in the state. The two examples I'm aware of are over by Prairie du Chien. They allow the length to connect a county highway that makes a jog. They allow that connector length of the state highway, but I specifically asked about a consideration of an exemption on a state highway posted above 35 miles an hour, and they said that that would not be considered by that group.
Any other questions or comments we'd like to hear tonight? With that being the case, I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's a great crowd. Thank you for being civil and having a good, positive conversation. In this time of where we are in our government, that doesn't always happen. So I appreciate you all doing that. I want to thank our panel up here for taking the time out of their day to come. We appreciate them, and obviously, several of these gentlemen did not have to come, but they are willing to help out a fellow municipality, and one of the municipalities of Rock County. So I appreciate it. Thank you. I do anticipate the city council will be discussing this on Wednesday at 6 o'clock at their city council meeting. And give staff some direction of what direction they want to move forward, if they want to move forward at all. So you will hear more from us. But again, thank you for coming. Thank you for your great questions and great discussion. And we appreciate you.